Hey team, Lawrence here. Welcome back to the AIRTOC demo series. Today we're going to be focusing in on one of the most important outputs of the planning phase, which is an integrated project management plan, or the IPMP. In this video, I'm going to walk you through what the IPMP is, why it matters, and how it's used to guide decisions, governance, and project control. Then we'll walk through a live demonstration where I'll generate a full IPMP using the AIRTOC framework and the AIMPM Project Management Coach. As always, we like to start with definitions, and according to PMI, the Integrated Project Management Plan is a document that describes how the project will be executed, monitored, and controlled and closed. It integrates and consolidates all subsidiary management plans and baselines and serves as the basis for all project decisions. This is a good definition, but let's take a deeper look. The Integrated Project Management Plan is the project's master plan. It consolidates all subsidiary plans, it provides a roadmap and governance structure, and it aligns stakeholders to a single cohesive strategy. Your primary goal here is alignment. You're going to put a lot of different plans into one major plan that you want to align the entire team to. Now, again, your IPMP is going to bring together multiple plans, including your scope management plan, schedule management plan, cost management plan, quality management plan, resource management plan, you name it, okay? Now, the goal of the IPMP is simple. Rather than managing all of these different components independently, the IPMP combines them into one unified strategy. Now, PMI defines 19 different components of the IPMP, but most likely you won't need all of them. One key takeaway to remember is to draft your IPMP according to what you need to manage closely on your project. The rest of those components pretty much just take up space. So, for example, if you know you need to keep a close eye on how communication flows on your project, draft a communication plan. On the contrary, if communication is standardized and completely understood amongst your project team, you may not actually need one. Now, when in doubt, always follow your PMO or organizational standards, but think about what you need to manage on your plan before you draft one. A well-built IPMP supports governance. It helps you monitor against baselines. It helps you control processes. It builds communication structure. It helps with change validation, and it helps you find alignment across all functional areas. These are all vital things that the PM needs to consider when managing project work. One of the key factors when drafting an IPMP is to get the team's feedback while you actually do it. Your plan will affect them, and if you want them to go along with your plan, they should also have some input into the plan. This is how real governance is created on a project and how it's actually adhered to. The IPMP funnel describes how the IPMP is central to project governance, monitoring progress, validating changes, controlling communication, and ensuring alignment. As with all other funnels, what goes into the top feeds the output at the bottom. If the PM is able to put proper governance in place, they can monitor and control progress against baselines. This leads to better control. If changes are needed, they can be communicated easily because there's a structure in place for escalations and there's a validation process in place for changes. This ensures alignment with the entire team. If your teams are aligned to your plans, the project becomes a lot easier to manage. Now that you understand what the IPMP is and why it's so important, let's walk through how to generate one using the AIRTOC framework. We'll build this prompt inside of the AIRTOC template. Then we'll show you how to complete the integrated project management plan produced by the AIMPM Project Management Coach. Let's dive in. Before we start on the IPMP, there's a few things that you need to consider. For the sake of time and simplicity on these demonstrations, we'll be using simulated minimal data. In real projects, you'll likely have a lot more context to add in. Second, even with simplified data, you'll still see how powerful AIRTOC prompts can be. And remember, the more context you add, the better the output for these prompts. Lastly, this process applies to every AIRTOC template in the textbook. The workflow is universal and it applies across all deliverables. Before we dive into the demonstration, we want to make sure that we give a brief overview of everything that you're going to see here. So the first thing you'll see is the AIRTOC template for the Integrated Project Management Plan. This can be found in your textbooks as well as the AIRTOC template library. We'll cover this in full in a second. Below that, you have a real-world scenario that we're going to use to feed information into the actual AIRTOC template, and that information will be used as the simulation data that we have down here. And again, everything in red indicates simulation data so that you don't get things confused. We also add one more row at the bottom so that you can see the separation between input context and data context. Okay. Last but not least, you have your AIMPM Project Management Coach, which is an exclusive GPT that we have for our students, and we'll load the prompt into there and get the output. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Starting with the AIRTOC template for the IPMP, you'll notice that you'll have all of your different pieces of the AIRTOC framework on the left-hand side. So you have your AI platform, your role, your task, your output, and your context here. AI produces, again, just gives an explanation of what AI may produce for you once you load all of the information into the prompt. On the right-hand side, you have your actual information. And again, we like to load up as much as we can, or at least some guidance into these templates. So what you'll see here for the AI platform is Gemini or ChatGPT. That's the recommended LLM for you to go ahead and place this prompt. The role is the project manager or PMO director. And again, we place these roles here for you. You can change these roles if you like, but these are the recommended roles to create the IPMP. Second, the task is pretty straightforward. Consolidate subsidiary management plans into one integrated project management plan. Then we have our output, which is a comprehensive and approved IPMP for guiding execution and governance. And then from here, we get into our inputs for context and our data. Okay. And again, inputs for context, very high level data and information that you can get from your project charter. The data information is a lot more detailed, right? And we like to break this out in categories. So here we have our scope data, schedule data, cost data, resource data, risk data, etc. And these may be individual documents like a full work breakdown structure, requirements documentation, traceability matrix. And again, there's a number of different ways that you can get this data in. You can copy and paste it in. You can drag the document itself into the query. There's a lot you can do to get this data information in. And again, the more context you add, the better. So let's go ahead and go over the scenario now to make sure that we understand what we need to build for the IPMP. After scope baseline approval, the PMO identified inconsistencies across subsidiary plans. Schedule assumptions didn't match resource availability, and cost estimates weren't aligned with the latest risk assessments. Multiple departments were operating with different expectations for dependencies, especially around the integration build, UAT sequencing, and data migration timelines. Vendor delays and evolving configuration requirements highlighted the need for tight change control and clear baseline alignment to avoid fragmentation during execution. Governance and audit required a single authoritative plan, consolidating scope, schedule, cost, risk, communications, quality, procurement, and change control into a unified document. This is our requirement here. The PM was instructed to produce an integrated project management plan, IPMP, ensuring that all baselines and management plans were synchronized before full execution began. So not a lot of details in terms of numbers here within this scenario, but it allows us to go ahead and gather information for us to create the IPMP, right? So that's our scenario. Let's take a look at what's actually in the template. So again, you still have your same structure here, the AI platform, the role, task, and output, and you have your context and data, okay? The project manager, PMO director, the role, task, and output, all this information stays the same. But we did add some details in for scope, for our baseline problem and goal, for our constraints, some risks, some stakeholders. We did add scope data, schedule data, cost data, and resource data. And again, remember, you're not going to need to add in all of the different data pieces that are sort of in that template. You can pick and choose which ones you want. Just make sure you include the proper context. We're going to take this and copy and paste it into our project management coach. All right, so we'll just copy that. Control V to paste it in, make sure everything's correct. And again, I'm not adding any additional prompts or additional information. I just copy and paste this in. The reason why this works is because the AIMPM Project Management Coach is trained on AIRTOC. It understands what you're saying when you just copy and paste this in. You're not going to get the same response from other LLMs sometimes, so that's why we recommend using this. So we'll go ahead and put it in, and let's see what we get. Moving a little slow today. All right, so it's going to break out a two-step process for us. The first is the sort of integrated structure and gap check. All right, you receive a complete executive ready outline, and then they can generate the full IPMP. Okay, so what what this is going to do, and the reason why LLMs sort of limit what they give you is because of token size. And so it's only going to be able to put out so much information in one output. Ultimately, you probably will need to iterate through some of this, and we'll show you how to do that. Okay. So first, we're going to get the executive summary. Then we have the project overview. We have the scope management plan. We have a schedule management plan here. We have a cost management plan. We have a quality management plan. We have a resource management plan, communications management plan, a risk management plan, procurement management plan, change control management plan, integration management plan, phase control points, compliance and security management, approval workflow, and the next steps here. Okay. And AI is telling us that it can generate a full IPMP informal deliverable format, including all of these additional pieces here. But we may not want to do that just yet, right? We can take that option and allow AI to do that for us, or we can go through these sections to start to iterate through something. So, for example, if I'm looking at, say, my schedule management plan, and I need this to be a lot more robust, one thing I can do is highlight this area. I'll make sure I copy it, and then I'll ask AI to expand on this area. All right, and I'll copy and paste that in, and then I'll hit the go button. Now, what AI is going to do is expand this one particular section for me into much more of a sort of final complete document. Now, again, all of this rests on how much context you're giving. Okay, if you're not giving a lot of context, then AI is going to be limited in how much of this is going to be able to do for you, right? So we want to make sure that the information that is kicking out to us is accurate all the way through and through, okay? So it breaks out this in a much more detailed way in terms of our schedule management plan, right? Now, if you had to draft this up for yourself, it would take you a few weeks to draft this up completely, knowing all of the different plans and components that you would have to put into your IPMP. So what we're showing you here is that AI can take sort of an outline of information, which we have here, and then you can take this and elaborate on it much more, get a lot deeper into the details, and actually create a very detailed project management plan with not very much effort, okay? Most of the effort is going to come from you gathering information and bringing it into the query. And then from there, you should be able to get what you need for this plan. And that right there is the power of AIRTOC. You're able to take a query with minimal data and build an outline for an IPMP and then start to scale it to a much more detailed document. Okay, that is the power of what you're able to do with the AIMPM Project Management Coach, the AIRTOC process, and it takes a ton of time off your calendar in terms of drafting these types of documents up. All right, we'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.